Hi, I'm Anja. I'm the founding director of Fates in Tune. Does this work? Yeah, it works. So basically, Fates in Tune does that, what you just saw, music festivals, offering a space for people to come and share and listen to music and experience dance and other forms of performative art from other religious backgrounds. I started Fates in Tune in 2011. At the time I was studying at SOAS University in London. It's a university that's very well known for its student diversity. However, what I found when I studied there is that the different religious groups were kind of keeping to themselves when it was about religion, and that it was really difficult to understand what other religions were doing, and also because conversations would quickly become politicized. So I had an idea about doing a music festival to bring together people from different religious backgrounds to learn about other religions, become curious. You know, I come from a very musical family and thought it would be a nice way to just bring the students together. So the festival aims are to facilitate an interfaith encounter in a non-political safe space. So, I mean, it's really important to talk about politics, but maybe not at the same time that you're trying to have positive interfaith dialogue, or maybe at a later stage. Anyway, I just wanted to have like that chance of sharing the same space in a positive way, you know, and if people talk about whatever they want to talk, then they can do that, but just have the chance of making it not about politics. We just celebrate religious diversity, so many different religions are invited, and it's just about, you know, celebrating diversity and difference without polarizing. Humanizing the others. So for us, music is a really important tool to encounter someone, to encounter the person you're speaking to as a human, because music transports those emotions like fear, love, hatred, love, obviously, maybe even worship, that we can all understand, even if I don't understand the language that someone is singing in, or that music sounds unfamiliar to me. I still encounter that person as a human being when I experience their music. So it's a really powerful tool for humanizing the other and getting beyond those religious labels. And then obviously the fact that it's entertaining is really important, but we do combine that musical entertainment with space for meaningful dialogue. So far we've had 7 festivals, 6 festivals in London. The first 4 festivals took place at SOAS University. Then the British Museum, which is the most visited destination in the UK, offered us their space to do our festivals there. So that number is actually not correct, because we just had our 6th festival in London last week, 2 weeks ago, and we had only there 18,000 people attending, so that number is a bit higher than that. And we started in Berlin as well. I'm originally from Berlin, so after coming back from my studies in the UK, I wanted to replicate the festival here, and having experienced how well it works to connect people, I felt that this is really an important time to do something like that in Berlin as well, to counter, you know, that rising right-wing populism. The next festival, the second Berliner Festival der Religion, is going to take place here in July. And you can pick up more information on that from me in a moment. So what is it like when you come to one of the Fates in Tune festivals? Of course, there is music from various different religions. Some you may know, some you may have never heard of, as well as dance. We've had some panel discussions at some of our festivals. And there is always an interfaith community fair. So whereas your curiosity may come from listening to someone's music, then you'll actually be able to approach a faith community at the interfaith fair, which happens on the same day in the same space, and you can actually ask all those questions that you've always wanted to ask, with the kind of threshold of approaching someone already being lowered through the fact that you've been at this musical event, enjoying yourself. There are also some informative and art exhibitions, especially in Berlin, because we were lucky to have funds to pay for that. And in Berlin, we've also started to have an interactive children's learn and play area, which actually adults have also been very interested in. Kind of even arts and craftsy stuff, but also kind of a child-friendly exhibition on religions. We've had workshops, so this is a picture from a workshop we did prior to the Berlin Festival last year. And also musical workshops, or this is a picture from a chanting and meditation workshop we did in London last year. So this is the last slide already. I want to talk to you about why I think music is such an important and powerful tool for actually facilitating interfaith engagement, maybe more so than other tools. And the way I want to approach this question is from three main challenges that arise when you do any kind of interfaith, maybe also intercultural dialogue. The first challenge is a challenge that has something to do with the scope and outreach of any kind of interfaith work you try to do. First of all, religion nowadays, unfortunately, has negative stigmata attached to it. For a lot of people, if I say anything that has to do with religion or faith, it's a red flag. Germany is composed of at least a third of, like 30% of Germans don't describe themselves as part of any religious group or faith community. And I think even with those people who are part of communities, the idea that someone is religious is kind of intimidating and negative to them. So a lot of interfaith projects have the problem that they don't reach people who are kind of intimidated or even just alienated by the whole idea of religion. Also, a lot of projects are limited in terms of their target group, in the sense that they are maybe custom made for students, but then that excludes everybody who doesn't have a particular educational background. Maybe they are limited in terms of language if they are a verbal project and it's about talking to each other, and maybe some people don't have that language background to be able to participate, which many of you, I guess, can understand living in Berlin. And also a lot of interfaith projects. I mean, I've participated in many myself, but often it feels like preaching to the choir, because the people who participate are already so open to the idea of interfaith engagement and that it's something good, that it can be a bit difficult to actually get those in the loop that wouldn't really come, you know? So one thing that I found out, that I learned over the years, that Faiths in Tune has been doing well, is the fact that it's so universally accessible. It can be accessed passively, so even if you're a bit skeptical, but you know there's a free music event going on, and there's just something about world music that you find interesting, that weird label they came up with, then you can come to the festival, you can passively engage. You don't have to step out of your comfort zone. You can just sit in the audience and kind of just, you know, listen first and see a bit for yourself. You don't have to speak to anybody if you don't want to, but then you could, you know. And just that way it reaches a broader audience. It's family friendly. Parents, I know that very well myself. It's difficult if you have kids to go to a place, because often, you know, it's not easy. But this kind of event brings in a lot of different people. Also, maybe people who are a bit older and don't feel that they're wanted at other kind of interfaith events, because they feel like they don't think I'm relevant anymore. But this kind of event invites them into. The second challenge that a lot of interfaith initiatives and projects have is a challenge of content. Like I said earlier, when you start talking about religion, you know, what is the same, what is different, you might get to a point where it becomes political in a very uncomfortable way, and you know, some barrier shuts down, and it's difficult to continue the conversation. I mean, Israel-Palestine is an obvious thing, but I guess also the whole conversation around the war of terror, or the relationship between race and religion, is very difficult to deal with, and it's really important to talk about these things, but it is an important challenge, I think, for all different kind of organizations that do interfaith work. Also, when you invite people to sit at a table and talk about their religions, then the religious labels actually prevail. Because I'm talking to you, and I'm talking to you in your function as a Christian, or as a Muslim, or as a Hindu, and maybe you'll see me at this interfaith event in my function as a Jew or whatever. And it's sometimes difficult to actually access the human behind it, even if you're talking to the person as part of an event. And then there's something that this wonderful Nigerian author has called the trap of a single story. If you don't know about this, Google it. It's a really great TED Talk. Basically suggesting that if you only know one story about a person, it's very easy to then develop prejudices and to not see someone for anything else but that story that you know about them. When you live in a society, you understand that the society around you is quite complex. So me living in Germany, I know that Germans can be a lot of different things, and that some of those things I like, some of those things I don't like, but I have the ability to have a more qualified and complex understanding of them. And it's really difficult and for interfaith projects not to fall into the trap of the single story, because someone explains, well, in Islam it's this and this way, in Judaism it's this and this way. So how do you combat that single story? How do you offer multiple stories? So Faith Syntune addresses this challenge of content by, as I said, avoiding politicization, because for once it's not about the talking and it's not about the justifying, it's not about the explaining, it's about the listening. We try to create dialogue rather than debate. And as I said, music is just a great way to facilitate that humanization, to understand someone primarily as a human being, especially if you hear a lot of different religious music performances. It's much more easier to see the common thread than to think about all the respective differences, even though they are so beautiful and you cherish them anyway. And also we do accommodate intra and interfaith and cultural diversity. So you may come to a festival, but you're not going to see one performance and after that you know what Muslim music is like, you know what Christian music is like. You might actually come and you might see some traditional Persian whirling dervishes, but then you might also see a Muslim group an Arabic Muslim group that only uses instruments that are allowed in a mosque, like percussion. And then you may see our group from London, Pearls of Islam, two Afro-Caribbean sisters who kind of do really cool acoustic rap music, jam, really nice. And so what you'll actually get is very different stories about the same religious group. You understand it's not one group, it's a lot of different groups inside. The last challenge, well, the third big challenge I want to talk about is the challenge of community engagement. A lot of interfaith initiatives can feel a bit top-down because they're very facilitated. It feels like, this is the box that I'm supposed to present myself in, this is my role today, and that's it. How do you actually get communities to feel an ownership of their participation in any interfaith process? Even just because maybe the persons who are selected to do the keynotes get a higher hierarchy than someone who's just in a panel, or you know what I mean? How do you engage community members and not just the leaders? A lot of interfaith initiatives only invite, religious figures, or students maybe, so the youth leaders of a community, but not the everyday temple goer or church worshiper. And also, this is something that I've seen in Germany a lot. Some religious minorities are overlooked because they're simply too small in terms of representation, or because they're just not so visible for historical reasons. So a lot of German interfaith stuff, lovely as it is, just includes the Abrahamic religions, Jews, Muslims, and Christians. What about the Hindus? What about the Buddhists? What about the Baha'is? What about, your candomblé representatives, your Colombian shamans, and all that? So we do include them. But also we enable communities to showcase what's important to them. We just give them a stage, but what they do on the stage belongs to them and is something that they're proud of. And actually, that way, you get a lot of community members coming who wouldn't attend something else because they feel like they would embarrass themselves because they don't have anything smart to say. But when it's their own community presenting on stage, they're already part of the whole event, and they're proud of what is shown because it's something that comes from them. So I don't tell people what they have to perform on the stage. They decide what they want to perform. And it's interesting that some people would say, well, but we're not professional musicians. Like, are you sure that you want us to perform like our dance or our prayer on the stage? And I say, it's not true. You are experts because you're experts in your thing, and the audience will appreciate that just for that, So this really wonderful sense of not being patronizing and not telling people this is how the event should go, but just offering a space, and then it's them that make the program themselves, and it's really nice to attend. So yeah, we celebrate difference without polarizing. Music is a really perfect icebreaker to create the basis for that interfaith dialogue that should take place, that verbal dialogue, but that has to take place when you've already gotten some people to participate, and not just the ones who would participate anyway, but maybe the ones who were a bit skeptical about religion, or who didn't know about a group called Giants, or it can be combined with other activities. So if you think music is just about entertainment and fun, well, you can get the more serious things in as well. You can combine them. You can use music as the hook to get people in, and then offer space for other things happening as we do. And in the end, I think Faith Sintun has been a really important tool to counteract ignorance and xenophobia, and in the end, reducing conflict potential. By getting two people in the same room through their music, making them feel their shared humanity more than anything else, making them understand that this person is probably not a terrorist, it's just a human being like myself. Little by little, very little by little, but ultimately you do reduce the potential of those two to actually enter into a very violent conflict. And I know the question of measuring your impact is always an important one. So I know how many people we've reached. I know that we have had over 20 different religions represented at our festivals. But I also learned after many years, throughout the years, that different communities actually met at the festival, and because they had time, they were at the same interfaith fair, they kind of got talking, and they ended up doing some cooperations with each other. Some of the artists ended up, being really good friends and doing music together with their respective communities coming in to support them and meeting each other as well. So it's a very organic process. It's not very much facilitated in a strategic way, Maybe that also has potential to have a really good impact. So yeah, you can get involved. You can support us at the festival in July. If you're looking for something nice to volunteer for while you're still in Berlin, where it's not a big problem that you're going to leave after your master degree finishes, then this is a really good opportunity. It's fun. Anyway, you can just attend. We're also having a festival in London again in March next year, and hopefully future locations as well. So yeah, that's it.